At 04:13 hours deep within Russia's Belgorod forest, a missile ignited the morning sky. A lone 9 M338 interceptor. It was launched from a Tor M2 air defense system. The target, a Ukrainian drone barely the size of a hawk. A direct hit. The drone vaporized in a silent flash. On the ground, Russian and Chinese troops erupted in celebration. They were oblivious. The drone's final action was not one of failure. Before it was annihilated, its purpose was not reconnaissance. It was transmission. In its last millisecond, it sent a compressed data burst, the precise coordinates of every vehicle in the convoy. The signal went straight back to Kyiv. The soldiers believed the threat was neutralized. In reality, they had just confirmed their own kill box. This was no chance encounter. It was the trigger for a meticulously planned operation. A Ukrainian operation initiated hundreds of kilometers above the planet's surface. It began when commercial American satellites from Maxar Technologies detected anomalous activity. In the port of Vladivostok, shipping containers bearing Chinese military markings were offloaded under a veil of secrecy. The cargo PLZ 05mm self-propelled howitzers, the first shipment of a $1 billion contract sealed between Beijing and Moscow. With this intelligence confirmed, a new directive was issued from the Ukrainian Joint Intelligence Command, codenamed Busmark. From that moment on, every move the convoy made was shadowed by assets Ukraine did not officially possess. Small, stealthy Leto 300s, loitering drones weighing less than 2.5 kilograms, tracked the column from high altitude. Their encrypted data streamed through Starlink satellites. Beneath the digital silence, an artificial intelligence in Kyiv went to work. It dissected radio chatter. It isolated call signs. It analyzed patterns of behavior. It even predicted the convoy's rest stops with chilling accuracy. This was more than surveillance. This was predictive warfare driven by machine learning. The battlefield reduced to algorithms. The stakes were absolute. This convoy represented the first hard proof of a secret arms pact between Russia and China. It was Moscow's answer to its crippling artillery losses in Ukraine. If these howitzers reached the front, Ukrainian positions around Kharkiv would face a fresh storm of steel. Failure meant the fall of a city. Success meant severing Moscow's new lifeline. Kyiv made the call. The convoy would not survive the night. At 04:15 hours 8 kilometers from the convoy's projected path, an M113 armored carrier lay in wait, concealed beneath thermal netting. Inside, a lone Ukrainian drone pilot hunched over his controls. His face was bathed in the green glow of a monitor. He flipped a single switch. 59 FPV drones lifted silently into the darkness. Each was armed with a shaped charge, small but lethal. Yet what made this assault unprecedented was not its firepower. It was the programming. The drones flew no formation. They followed no linear attack vector. Instead, they scattered chaotically, executing what Ukrainian engineers had named the Phantom Swarm. They called it protocol. To the human eye, it was chaos. A flock of birds twisting unpredictably through the sky. But to the Russian Tor M2's radar, it was nothing. The Tor's AI was engineered to track fast, linear threats. Missiles, aircraft. It couldn't process the erratic radar returns, dismissed as atmospheric clutter. Birds, perhaps. The swarm simply vanished from Russian sensors. For a moment, it was a perfect ghost. Then static ripped across the operator's display. He knew that signature. The source wasn't weather, it was electronic warfare. A single Russian Orlan, 10 reconnaissance drone had entered the AO. Worse, it was jamming. The hunter had just become the hunted. If that Orlan locked onto the M113's control signal, the Spetsnaz escort units would have 10 seconds to find and neutralize it. At 04:16 hours miles away, the Orlan operator noticed something was wrong. His AI-assisted system saw nothing, just random radar blips, but his gut told him otherwise. The signal patterns. They were too controlled. too synchronized. He overrode the automation. A direct call to the Spetsnaz commander escorting the convoy on the ground. The response was immediate. One Russian LPD-801 anti-drone gun, a shoulder-mounted weapon, emitting a focused electromagnetic pulse, was brought to bear. A silent beam lanced into the darkness. A third of the Ukrainian FPV drones dropped from the sky like stones. Motors dead. The feeds inside the M113 went black. "We've lost 3. The operator's voice cracked over the comms. "They're onto us." The ghost swarm was compromised. The convoy commander barked 2 rapid-fire orders. First, all trucks move out, now. The forest erupted with the roar of diesel as 15 heavy gun trucks accelerated, pushing 40 miles per hour. Second, launch 2 more Orlans. Widen the search grid. With not Dayem. In seconds, the tactical situation inverted. The swarm was no longer a ghost. It was a target. And somewhere in that forest, its control signal was now a beacon in the night. Russian anti-tank teams drew a bead with Cornet missiles locking onto that electromagnetic source, ready to fire, the moment they had a confirmed grid. At 0417 hours, the Ukrainian operator made a high-stakes gamble. Instead of going dark, he changed the rules of engagement. He activated a countermeasure known as the Echo Trap. Unlike a conventional jammer, the Echo Trap doesn't block a signal, it hijacks it. The system recorded the Orlan's control frequency, delayed it by milliseconds, then broadcast it back at the drone. To the Orlan's onboard computer, it was like hearing its own voice on a delay. An echo. A digital, auditory illusion. The result was chaos. The Orlan's navigation system faltered, completely disoriented. Its positional data became a contradictory looping feed. Within seconds, the drone believed the swarm was kilometers from its true position. The drone was now flying blind, trapped in a disoriented spiral. Its optics were useless. This was the signal. On the M113, a side hatch slid open. A Stiletto 600 loitering munition launched into the sky. A 23-kilo high-drag system carrying a 4.5-kilo heavy warhead. It ascended silently to 4,500 meters. Its thermal sensors began the hunt, searching for the faint heat signature of the Orlan's engine. For 30 seconds, the Russian asset flew aimlessly. Then a shadow fell from above. The detonation disintegrated the target mid-flight. A clean kill. But the engagement was far from over. On the ground, the Spetsnaz unit required no confirmation. They saw the result with their own eyes. They watched their eye in the sky fall from the clouds in pieces. They had a vector on the attacker. And they had heavier assets to bring to bear. At 0418, the call went out, air support requested. From a nearby airbase, a Ka-52 Alligator attack helicopter spooled up its rotors, tearing at the air. A 12-ton flying tank killer, its payload laser-guided Vikra missiles. The mission was simple: find and neutralize the Ukrainian control vehicle. The gunship's thermal optics scanned the treetops. Then, a contact. The faint but unmistakable heat signature of the M113 bleeding through the forest canopy. Inside the M113, the operator's focus was absolute. A sudden tone shattered the quiet. A warning. A red icon flashed on his screen. Laser lock. Vikra missile inbound. Time to impact 20 seconds. The operator moved with cold precision. No retreat. He prepared a countermeasure. A hiss. A small projectile launched from the roof of the APC. It climbed into the air, then blossomed into an expanding aerosol cloud. A ghost of heat. This was no ordinary smoke. It was a chemical decoy engineered to burn hotter than any engine. To the missile's thermal seeker, the target had just moved. And it was now burning. The weapon corrected its trajectory. It dove for the decoy. A brilliant flash illuminated the forest. The M113 was untouched. But the Ka-52 was not finished. The helicopter banked maneuvering for a gun run. The Ukrainian operator deployed his trump card, a single FPV drone fitted with an experimental EMP warhead. On the Ka-52's radar, it was a ghost, a tiny, insignificant contact. The pilot ignored it, lining up his cannon. At a range of a few hundred meters, the operator triggered the payload. There was no explosion, only a pulse of silent energy. The Ka-52's cockpit went dark. Screens died. Targeting systems failed. The gunship's avionics were crippled. The pilot was flying blind. He broke off the attack, turning for home. The final Russian asset capable of defending the convoy was forced to retreat. The sky now belonged to the Ukrainians. At 0421 inside the M113, the operator observed his screen. 22 drones remained circling in perfect formation above the trees. He gave the final authorization. The swarm descended. 22 FPV drones diving at over 190 kilometers per hour, each munition locked onto a heat signature. The lead vehicle was hit first. A single-shaped charge tore through 1 centimeter of steel, detonating after a 1/2 second delay. The result was catastrophic. 2,200 liters of diesel fuel erupted in a flash, turning the convoy into a column of fire. Each blast triggered the next. Secondary explosions ripped down the line. Ammunition cooked off. Fuel tanks ruptured. Artillery shells detonated in a violent chain reaction. In less than 3 minutes, 15 Chinese PLZ-05 howitzers and 20 trucks were reduced to twisted wreckage. Flames clawed at the sky over the Belgorod forest, a signal fire visible for kilometers. Hours later, a Maxar satellite documented the aftermath. The imagery showed cooling craters, a scorched tree line, and the skeletal remains of vehicles spread across a 1/2-mile radius. The largest crater measured 10.5 meters across. In Kyiv, the intelligence confirmed a total mission success. This strike did more than just destroy equipment. It shattered Russia's tactical balance. The first consequence, a communications blackout. The EMP drone, coupled with the loss of the convoy's command vehicle, crippled the local C2 network in Belgorod. For 72 hours, an entire sector of the front went silent. The second consequence, a shift in firepower. Without the incoming PLZ 5 seconds, Russia's artillery advantage around Kharkiv vanished. Under cover of darkness, Ukrainian troops advanced, retaking ground once considered a bastion. The third impact was psychological. In Moscow, high command began to quietly question everything. They questioned the value of Chinese hardware, materiel that was destroyed before it could fire a single shot. What was meant to be the dawn of a new Russo-Chinese partnership became proof of Ukrainian technological superiority. This was a war fought not just with weapons, but with code, with algorithms, and with sheer nerve. In under 10 minutes, one operator, in an aging M113, eliminated a convoy valued at over $70 million, blinded Russian air defenses, and shattered a geopolitical illusion. Modern warfare is not a contest of size, it is a race to adapt. And on that cold morning near Belgorod, destroyed a convoy worth more than $70 million, neutralized Russian anti-air, and dismantled a geopolitical fantasy. The nature of war isn't about the largest force. It's about the fastest mind. And on that frigid morning near Belgorod, Ukraine demonstrated again that ingenuity can bring an empire to its knees.